The Last Mabelcorn, a title only a select few will truly appreciate. So I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Gravity Falls, and as usual, if you don't want anything spoiled for yourself, stop the video right now. Also, a lot went on in this episode, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the beginning, and then there's a point where the episode kind of splits into two stories that are going on simultaneously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about one story, and then I'm going to rewind, and then I'm going to talk about the other story, and then talk about the ending. I think that'll make things a little easier. So here we go. So while Ford was sleeping, he had a nightmare where he saw visions of Bill Cipher. So he finally decided to give a little more information to the kids. So he showed them a picture of Bill, and he said, "Have you ever seen this character?" And they told him, "That's Bill Cipher. He's been coming after us." So he said, "Okay, something might go down. We need to prepare for this. We need to protect the shack from Bill Cipher, and there are a bunch of ways we can do it. We can shield our minds." And he said, "We need the hair from the mane of a unicorn to make some kind of protection spell around the mystery shack." So Mabel enthusiastically volunteers to go hunt down the unicorn. So this is where the story splits. So Mabel gets together with Grenda, Candy, and Wendy, and they go into the forest trying to look for the unicorn, and they find the unicorn, and she said, "Only the purest of hearts will get a lock of my hair," or however she spoke. The unicorn had a hilarious voice, by the way. So Mabel's like, "I am pure of heart, I am worthy." So she steps toward the unicorn, and the unicorn's like, "No, you are not worthy." And then the unicorn cries, and a flower dies, and Mabel was like, "No, that's impossible." As I said on Twitter, just because you're pure of heart doesn't necessarily mean you're mentally stable. But yeah, Mabel figures that, you know, she's been selfish around people like Dipper, so she goes out to do good deeds and to try and redeem herself. But then she gets back, and the unicorn was like, "No, you are not worthy still. You did all those things out of just to make yourself better." And man, unicorns are very picky. So they all leave the unicorn's place, and Wendy is like, "Okay, we tried doing this your way. Let's do this the Wendy way." And she was like, I was like, "Yeah, let's do this the Wendy way." So they got a bunch of fairy dust from one of the gnomes, so they're going to use it to knock out the unicorn. And while it was asleep, they were going to cut some of its hair off. Then Mabel shows up, and she's like, "No, no, don't do it. Not like this. This is wrong." And she steals the scissors away, and wouldn't you know it, the unicorn wakes up right when Mabel has the scissors, and the unicorn thinks she was going to try and steal her hair. His hair. Was the unicorn male or female? I don't even remember. But then a couple other unicorns show up, and it's revealed that that unicorn was just kind of messing with them, and unicorns can't really sense pure of heart and all that. So then the girls get mad. So then they're about to have this big fight, and then right as they were running at each other, right before they got near each other, we cut away. And I was like, damn it! I wanted to see what happened. I like to think that bronies who watch the show may have almost had a heart attack at that moment, but I digress. Let's talk about Ford and Dipper now. So while the girls were off on their magical adventure, Ford shows Dipper this sub-basement below the mystery shack that not even Grunkle Stan knew about. So he had this giant machine out with this thing that he put on Dipper's head, and he said, "This is going to run a program into your brain and shield you from Bill Cipher." So he's sitting there, and this program's running, and of course it shows all the stuff on the screen what Dipper is thinking about, and of course there's like, "Wendy, Wendy, 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 Wendy." So they're there for a while, and eventually Ford falls asleep, and Dipper starts to think, you know, maybe he's still holding back a lot of information. So he takes the helmet off, puts it onto Ford, and we get to see some of Ford's memories. And one of his memories was of him meeting Bill Cipher, shaking hands, and acting like they're friends. So naturally that freaks Dipper out. But then Ford wakes up, and there's this whole moment of where I think they knew that people were going to think that something was up with Ford. So they made him seem like, you know, Ford was evil. He was Bill Cipher all along. But I think at this point we can kind of put that to rest, because he says, I'm really me. I swear I'm really me. Just look in my eyes. I'm not messing with you." And then Ford finally tells them what's going on with him and Bill, because he found out about Bill Cipher. He tried to summon him, and Bill told him that he was a muse that shows up to geniuses all throughout history, and Bill was the one that actually told him to build the portal. But then he found out that Bill Cipher was using him, so he shut down the portal. And there's this really creepy scene where we see Ford talking to Bill when he found out that Bill was just using him to try and cross over into our world, and behind Bill there was this dimensional rift with these shadowy figures, and they're all cackling and laughing, and that was kind of creepy. So we've officially established that Bill Cipher has an army of God knows what that's ready to cross over into our world. So that's why the machine was dangerous all along, and that's why he took it apart, and that's why he was mad at Grunkle Stan, because for all we know, he could have accidentally brought Bill over into their world. But there is still that dimensional rift that he has in that snow globe, which Bill can use to get into our dimension. So he's promised Dipper and Mabel that I'm not going to keep anything back from you guys. This is getting really dangerous, so no more secrets. Then Mabel returns with the lock of the unicorn hair, and I love I love how she showed up, because they're all messy from battle and they're covered with like rainbow fluids, and Mabel just sort of comes up to the table and just, I got your unicorn hair. And it looked all like she tore it out of the unicorn's head, and like I said, they were covered in all this rainbow crap, and they said it was unicorn tears, but I like to believe it's unicorn blood. So the unicorn hair makes this magic dome that apparently Bill can't penetrate, but then the episode ends with Bill Cipher watching them do this, and he says, well, if I can't get any minds inside the Mystery Shack, I'll get one from outside the Mystery Shack. And then his eye sort of does this roulette thing of all the characters of Gravity Falls that we've met so far. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. And this was yet another great episode. And I love how, even when there's serious stuff going on, this show can still bring on the funny, like, perfectly, like, flawlessly. Because the whole thing with Mabel and the unicorn, that was all hilarious. There was a really funny bit with Grunkle Stan at the very end of this episode, but then at the same time we got this serious storyline going on. There's danger coming, we got to be ready for it. And then of course we leave off with foreshadowing from Bill. Now the question is, who is he going to get next to try and trick them, because he was going through all the characters we've met so far. We know that little Gideon decided to make a deal with him in prison. They're still not sure how that went, because they kind of cut away at the end of the last episode. Although he's probably still in prison. I'm not sure they can use him just yet. But the fact that now he's going to go after other people that we've met so far is very, very unsettling. Who are the most likely candidates? Like right now, I'm leaning toward like our main three side characters. Well, not side characters, but our main three people in the Mystery Shack. You got Seuss, Wendy, and Grunkle Stan. Now, Seuss is a good candidate because he is kind of simple, although he's well-meaning and he's dealt with Bill before, so I don't think that Bill would be able to get to him. Then you got Wendy, who has not yet met Bill Cipher, although she met Bill Cipher when he possessed Dipper. But even if she met him in person, I don't think she would go for him, because this is a girl who is willing to punch a unicorn in the face, so I don't think it'll be so easy to win her over. Now, the most likely candidate, I think, is Grunkle Stan, because if you think about it, he's holding a lot of animosity with Ford, and Grunkle Stan has not met Bill Cipher yet, as far as we know. So there is a good chance that Bill Cipher can get Grunkle Stan and turn him against the rest of the family. But at this point, it's just kind of speculation. And the one thing about the show is that when it comes to speculation, it's usually 50-50. Like, you can be right half the time, but at the same time be wrong half the time. Like how everyone predicted that Grunkle Stan had a brother, and then it came true. And then people were thinking that maybe something was wrong with him when he came through the portal. A lot of people thought he was Bill in disguise. But then, of course, it turned out that that wasn't true, so who knows, man? At this point, the possibilities could be endless. It could be, I could be wrong about Grunkle Stan or Seuss or Wendy. It could just be someone else. They could just bring back little Gideon, or it could just be any random person in Gravity Falls that's going to turn on them. But we're just going to have to wait and see. Luckily, the next episode is in 2 weeks, so we won't have to wait that long. So that's all I got for Gravity Falls: The Last Mabelcorn. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this episode, and who do you think Bill Cipher is going to possess next? My name is Rob, and trust no one.